everyone. Thanks for coming all the way out here to Vacaville. Yeah, so and I think we're gonna get started. I think we got people joining online. Welcome. Yeah, with this this is actually our second event that we've done, around Inception Studio, and it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, so most of the people here, the ones you see with the little the silver stars, are the ones that are the cohort members. They have been here since Thursday nights, and where we all appeared here, and we showed up basically here on Thursday night, formed up teams on Friday, and then people have just been hacking and building, up until literally right up to the minute. I think we had some of the people still working on their slides. As we talk right now.
It's happening right now.
Yes, yeah. So a lot of work and effort went into it. It's been a ton of fun. But first off, I wanted to really give a shout out to our sponsors, because without them, this event could have never happened at all. Yeah. I don't know, Jane, are you online? We can make it so you can unmute yourself if you.
Yes. Hello. Hello. I can be very quick. So, Felicis, we're super excited to be sponsoring this event. We just closed an $825 million Fund 9. We write $1 to $40 million checks into pretty much any sector, geography, and stage. And we have something called the Founder Pledge. So 1% of every check we write goes directly to the founding team for professional development. It could be executive coaching, mental health, things like that. So super excited to be here. Very excited to see the presentation. So please reach out to me afterwards if you want to chat further.
Awesome. Yeah. Crow, do you want to?
Yeah, Christiana.
Oh, okay. I'm Christiana State. I'm an attorney at Kroll & Mooring. We're really excited to be here. I want to also introduce you John McConnell, who's my colleague. We're both in the San Francisco office of Kroll & Mooring. The law firm is multinational, but we have a really good presence in San Francisco, where we work with technology ideas all the way from inception to going public and beyond. So we work with startup companies all the way from formation to raising financing to technology contracts, IP strategy, privacy, etc. And particularly, we represent clients also in the AI space. So I'm a technology lawyer. I focus on technology contracts and privacy. John focuses more on the corporate side of things. If you have any questions about what we do, or sort of the legal space generally in the artificial intelligence, definitely let us know. We're quite involved in the space, and we are very excited again to be here. Thank you.
And Brittany from Siri, we've sent a lot of cool swag for you guys. If you make it towards the end of the day.
I can just jump in. So, hey everyone, so great to meet you. I'm Brittany. I'm with CRB, aka Charles River Ventures, for those of you who may be familiar. We're one of the oldest funds in the country. They've been around since the 70s, so 53 years, and currently on our 19th fund, which is a $1 billion fund, focused primarily on early stage investing, so mostly seed and Series A. We're heavily involved with companies we work with, on the boards, shareholder to companies like Airtable, Vercel, Postman, Kong. So a lot of exposure in and around like the technical founder landscape broadly, I would say. I've been doing a ton of stuff in AI/ML recently, and super excited to see all the demos today. And as John mentioned, we have a bunch of swag back here, passion planners, which is apparently a thing, as well as some nice stickers for those of you who may have children or just an affinity for stickers. So we're happy to share.
So yeah, just a little bit of background on Inception Studio for you guys who don't know. I mean, the genesis of this is that my company was acquired, I guess now around 20 months ago. And you start to look for kind of what are the next steps in the career, and notice that there's a gap. Especially there's a lot of opportunities for people who are very junior, who say, hey, come live in our hacker house and come hack with us for 3 months, things like that. And then on the other extreme, you have things like EAR type of roles. This kind of sits somewhere in the middle, where it's like, people who like to build stuff, but maybe got a little bit more experience. And so typically those people are, other examples like exited founders or people who have, more experienced engineers or specialists with really deep domain expertise, right? And in general, they're looking for, quality. They have higher standards than typical founders. They're looking for something like a very early stage, maybe, looking for co-founders or so refining ideas. And, they're looking for kind of, high intense, in-person experiences, not virtual programs. And, in terms of, these are people who are kind of further along their life. And so they're, they have a high bar. They don't want to be able to, sign up for a month-long program or a program that's multiple months. That might end up being a waste of time. So that's really like how Inception Studio was born. And we build it around these fully immersive in-person events like you see here. We've all been living together in this house since Thursday, basically when we all showed up. And we very carefully curate the groups of people. You'll notice as you go through here, we're not all engineers, we're not all product people, we're not all researchers. We're not all like sales go-to-market people, but there's people, a good mix of people here, which is really intentional. And so, we have a large number of nominations. When we run the community, we want to keep the bar very high. So you can't apply. You can be nominated by somebody that we know, and that's the only way to get in because we try to keep the bar very high. But we have a great list of people, and because we're fortunate enough to be in a position where we can be very selective about who we accept and who we invite. And we have many people who actually exceed the bar. It's just they're just not the right particular mix for each particular cohort because we keep each cohort very small. On the order of 12 to 15-ish people. Again, because like we're trying to keep the small group dynamic there. And when you have a large group of people, you just can't develop those type of relationships that you have when you have a smaller group. But there's a good diversity, of people here, and we keep the events very intense and focused, right? So this is a 40 event. Everyone showed up on Thursday night. We're officially ending, tonight and Sunday night. So we keep the things very short so that we can have we can have people who have other obligations, for example, and they can still are able to participate. And the goal here is not to actually finish really anything. It's really the goal is to just get started, right? Can we help things to get started, and then we meet some people that you're not going to actually found and form a company directly out of one of these events, but you may be able to meet people who eventually do become your co-founders. And we were very successful in our first cohort. We actually had 3 companies form. Actually, maybe a 4th is going to be forming soon. Like from those founders from the first cohort. And so they after we saw that their experience from there. We said, hey, let's run some more of these events. So we have 6 of them, on the docket for this year. The next one tentatively is set for April 20th to 24th. We like this location. We're gonna try to do it in the same location. So it's so if you guys know anybody who is in that position where they are exceptional, world class in whatever area that they're in, and they are interested in doing a startup, definitely nominate them to be part of a future cohort because we're planning we have a whole big pipeline of people. So we're planning a number of these ahead. And then the dynamic here is very much it's got a partially like retreat, partially like a hackathon, and partially kind of a matchmaking event. Like everyone here is extremely early stage, at the point where it's I think I want to do a startup, or I think I want to do my next startup. And so it's a great environment, and and because we keep the bar high, and we keep the event short and tight and highly efficient, then we're going to be very successful there. And and when we design these, we do it with a lot of intentionality about how we actually think about these things. If there's a reason why we come all the way out to Vacaville, it's like this beautiful grounds and everything. It's like you want to remove all the distractions and put people in a different mental state, when they come out here, and allow them to intensely focus on something, right? We don't recruit the same set of people. We want to get a diverse set of people, just really smart, creative people. But there has to be enough overlap where they're working in the same area. right? And then you want to be able to just be able to do ultra rapid iterations. We were working earlier, like there's a notion of sprints, like when you're doing development, typically you do 1 week or 2 week sprints. We were doing 7-hour sprints. Like it's a super rapid turnaround there, right? And the other point is that this is not a competition, right? Like the goal is here is not, you're not going to come in like you win Inception or anything. The culture is very much one of cooperation and just open collaboration. And we saw this across all the teams where teams were helping each other out, helping with pitches, helping with technical problems. It was a great kind of community atmosphere, right? But we also intentionally make it into a high pressure situation. So, I mean, the timeline here is that people showed up on Thursday. We formed teams. We talked about ideas on Thursday night and through the morning. We formed teams on Friday morning, and then these teams need to build not only a demo and a prototype, but an entire business plan, an entire pitch, and then deliver it in front of you all. Whatever. We're at 2 p.m. Sunday, so a little over 48 hours. I think we give a little grace period there. It's approximately 48 hours to do all of that. So not a huge amount of sleep happened over the last few days, but there was, and this is intentional because, in these type of scenarios where, it's like the pressure is on, right? And like this is intentional. This is where you're really able to test those type of co-founder relationships. And could I potentially found a company with this person, right? And there's you'll learn a lot about people, like when you're sharing meals with them and you're living with them and you're working with them at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. about how they work and what makes them tick, right? And also that's where deep bonds are formed as well, right? And so this is also intentional. I think like we have a community, like a Discord community, where we continue to have ongoing engagement, across the different cohorts, and that's also intentional there. So anyway, so the most amazing thing is like this is all we're all doing this as volunteers. We're not getting paid for any of this. This is the team that has put together this entire event. And so it's myself, Mike Morris, and Connie, which you probably all received multiple emails from her, as well. We're all volunteers, and there's ex-founders, technical people as well, and Inception Studios are nonprofits because this is like we don't take any equity from the companies or the founders. We just are laser focused on want to attract the very best entrepreneurs and the best builders, and they be part of the community, right? And so you don't do that by saying like, hey, we're going to take, come join our community, or come join our incubator, and we'll take 7% of your company. Like the best founders don't need to do that, and so that's why we don't take any equity there. We survive on the the generosity of donors and of sponsors and other ones that want to be part of it. And I think that going on in the future, there will be some investment opportunities in some of these companies that do come out. But we're very focused on just really building a great community. So cool. So as we look forward today, so you're going to see some really amazing pitches and demo days. And just before kind of everyone comes up, I just want to mention that all these came together in like really just 2 days, among these teams, and I think you'll be very impressed with like what people are able to accomplish. Just realize that this is like 2 days of work for these people, and and not all the companies are going to be or pan out. They're not going to actually all form anything, but these are all people that you should know because they are all amazing builders, and they if you look at what they've been able to accomplish over the last 48 hours, you'll see they're all incredible people that you want to know, and they're all interested in doing startups. So definitely talk with them and get to know them afterwards. So we're gonna have the demo day. We're gonna try to kind of keep the pitches moving quickly and everything, and move forward them quickly. I know that you guys are gonna have a ton of questions. We'll have some after they do each pitch. Each team, you'll have a chance to do some questions there, but we're going to cut it off pretty quickly because you'll get a chance to talk to them offline as well. Because we want to keep it respectful of people's time. We have also people joining remotely and everything. So here on site, we actually, we're going to continue on, make a happy hour and dinner, everything. The event officially ends at 8 o'clock here, but we actually have this place until tomorrow morning. So, and if you look from last time, we had kind of things going pretty late into the night as well. And there are extra beds here and things like that. So, like if you, you can be flexible here as well. So if people, want to stay or want to stay over, we can probably work out some arrangements. So, anyway. This is our awesome cohort too. We just took this photo literally 30 minutes ago or something, right before you guys showed up. All amazing people. You can get to know every single one of them, and because I think humbly say we did an awesome job, like finding and attracting. Cool. Anyway, on to the pitches. That's why you're all the reason you're all here. So we the context here is we ended up forming into 4 teams. We actually had one bonus team there as well that kind of got added at the end. So and then we went to ChatGPT and we said, here are the four companies. What order should they pitch in? And they gave us the order. So this is so this is the order we're doing. So the first one are the Black Swans. So yeah.
All right. Thank you, John.
Just going to click on the presentation. Should be able to. And then just go to slideshow. Just click on slideshow at the top right. Okay. Okay, ready to go.
All right. Hello, everyone. Very excited to be kicking off Cohort 2. We have a little bit of a different project here. We are doing algorithmic trading on crypto driven by large language models.
Maybe you're on here.
So we're both builders in the crypto space for a long time, since about 2017. I've been doing algorithmic trading since that time. I then led smart contracts at 0x Labs, which builds decentralized exchange protocols on Ethereum. I left that in 2021 to do an algo trading prop shop, where we specialize in atomic arbitrage on Ethereum and also market making on Axis. So both longtime builders, and this is Raphael.
Thank you, Greg. I'm Raphael. I studied computer science at Stanford, did machine learning at Google, and then spent about 6 years building a crypto startup of my own that is now a team of 70 people. And I'm now working on new things in the AI world, as Greg is about to describe.
And so we didn't actually come here intending to work on algorithmic trading, but we were actually playing chess on the very first day and just started discussing the crypto markets. And it turns out this is something that's been on both of our minds for quite some time. So we thought, hey, let's talk on this and see what happens. So the problem that we focused on this weekend was that of sentiment analysis. So this is very common actually in trading, especially in crypto trading, because there's a ton of content across Twitter, across Discords, across Reddits. The earliest example that I can think of seeing this in the Ethereum space was back in late 2017, John McAfee used to tweet out his favorite token, and then shortly thereafter you would see that token pump. And the time between when he tweeted and when that pump happened got shorter and shorter as people started automating that and started trying to read what tokens is he talking about, is he saying it's good or bad. So that was one of the first examples I saw. Now today, there are actually APIs where any trader can just get access to this information really quickly. However, it's lacking because it's very one-dimensional. It's not actually that interesting. It's just saying, is this tweet good or bad? Or is this tweet by someone popular or unpopular? How much social engagement did it get? And it really doesn't capture the narrative that's being told in social media about this, the crypto market as a whole or a specific token. Now, what we realize is that some people here may not actually relate to the problem of whether sentiment analysis is broken or not. We've been trading for a long time, and something that I want to mention is that during my journey to build a perfect trading algorithm, I have both made a lot of money and lost all of my money on 2 separate occasions trying to build these trading algorithms. And we think that building this will really help drive our algos. So the vision not only can large language models capture the narrative and form our trading algorithms, but long term, what if we could actually go back into the loop and interact with people on Twitter? Something that's sort of interesting about these existing algorithms that simply classify tweets is that they're not taking advantage of the fact that this is a live organism with people out there interacting on the web. And we can simply hop in there and we can say to the large language model, we want you to clarify this, or maybe we want you to get more information on what's happening in the market. So right now, over this weekend, we work on simply understanding the tweets, and long term, we would actually like to use this to better inform our decisions going forward, so sort of have a feedback loop. And we chose to do this by the hand of Black Swans of 2022. Very interesting to us. So there were 2 Black Swan events in 2022 that really tanked the crypto markets. The first one was in May 2022. There's a stable coin called UST, and it was supposed to be pegged to $1, but it was pegged by using arbitrage between UST and this other token that Terra had called Luna. So they depended on this arbitrage path from US dollars to UST to Luna to US dollars working. But what happens when the liquidity dries up between these tokens and US dollars? Well, these charts show you what happens. Very quickly, they go to 0. Now, we were curious about this, and so we dug into the social media, and we found this one really interesting tweet that was actually from 1 year prior to that, so May 2021, where a PhD student actually outlined this exact scenario happening. And he referred to this as a death spiral right here, where it drops from $1 only down to 94 cents. But then, of course, a year later, dropped all the way to 0. And what's interesting is if we ran sentiment analysis on this, maybe he's saying UST is not good, but that's not like a lot of information. And if you scroll down, you can actually see that he links to an actual paper where he dives into exactly why these don't work. All right, the next one that we looked at was the FTX collapse, which is much more recent. And this is another example where a really interesting story unwound on Twitter. So the first thing that happened was a post came out saying that, hey, maybe Alameda is actually insolvent because they're resting on this FTT token, which they use as collateral to borrow a bunch of crypto. So if FTT collapses, then that will actually result in the collapse of Alameda as well. So allegations of this started coming out on Twitter, and we saw a lot of interesting tweets happening during that time where you could actually watch the founders of these different exchanges arguing in real time on Twitter about this token. It was fascinating. So we were curious, could we use this to infer the crash? The tweet that ended up doing this in was when CZ said, who's the founder of Binance, that he was going to dump all of his FTT bags, which is about $2.1 billion. You can see CZ tweets this here, and less than 24 hours later, the token's gone all the way to 0. All right, now to talk about what we hacked on.
Hello, so here's the system that we built over the last 2 days. It ingests a large amount of social data, actually 1 million plus tweets from crypto Twitter. It then filters and cleans them for relevant relevant time series that we're looking for. It embeds them using large language models into a high dimensional space that captures not just the sentiment, but a lot of the actual meaning of the text as well, as you will see shortly. We then use dimensionality reduction techniques, specifically one called TSNE, to reduce this high dimensional space into a 2-dimensional space that we can visualize, cluster, and take action using. And we then actually can look at that data, get insights, and at some point trade. So this is a chart of the output of our system that we built the last couple of days. This is a subset of our data set that illustrates some of the properties around the FTX collapse and how our system would analyze that. In gray, you see the background of crypto Twitter. These are tweets that happened well before or well after the FTX bankruptcy. In yellow, we've shown the tweets that are in the last 2 weeks before the bankruptcy, orange, the final week, and red, the last 24 hours right before the bankruptcy. And what you can see here, the background in gray it's lots of ordinary stuff that you'd expect from crypto Twitter. Here, Bitcoin Magazine says, Bitcoin's Lightning is the future of payments, by the Soundee CEO. That's the normal kind of stuff that you hear on crypto Twitter. That's 6 months before the FTX collapse. You'll notice that this yellow circles here are pretty similar in distribution on this plot to the gray ones. That suggests to us that 2 weeks before FTX declared bankruptcy, the vast majority of crypto Twitter did not really see that anything was amiss. So you can see here, 8 days before the bankruptcy of FTX, Crypto Jack posts, I'm buying more Doge. It's a normal day in crypto Twitter. People are posting on Doge. In fact, this entire cluster right here, one of the heaviest clusters that you see in gray and yellow, is actually just the Elon Musk / Doge cluster. But you can see that now if we look at the orange clusters, there's actually 2 distinct clusters that appear in orange that do not exist in our yellow and gray data sets here. This cluster here, and here's an example tweet from it, not gonna lie, FTT looks so bad, this could dump really, really hard. This cluster corresponds to the concern on crypto Twitter about FTX and its associated token FTT. This second cluster right here, you can see here just 3 days before the bankruptcy of FTX. Here's someone saying, I'm bullish on Solana NFTs. The creativity, art, and innovation happening on this chain is just too significant to disappear. So this is an uptick in people defending the Solana blockchain because it received heavy investment from FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried. And so people are trying to say, hey, this very large, very significant project is still strong and could survive. Here's other people with FUD about Solana. Here, Crypto Capo is posting Sol already dumping 1 day before the bankruptcy of FTX. So that's how the system is showing new sectors of tweets that are appearing in the time period right before these very significant events in crypto. And we actually have data as well on the UST Terra Luna collapse as well that we could look at with you later. But the system really emphasizes how we can use large language models to analyze not just the sentiment of tweets. Is someone excited or bearish about a certain token, but really to understand the details of what's going on in these tweets and what are the new themes that are actually emerging on crypto Twitter and how could those potentially inform our trading strategy.
Awesome. So why crypto? Well, there is a wealth of content on crypto Twitter. As well, decentralized markets are relatively inefficient, and even more so after several hedge funds collapsed last year. And there's still a lot of trading activity. Last month, the decentralized exchanges did over $50 billion in volume. So as well, Vacaville and I have written a lot of the underlying tech that we'd be trading on. So decentralized exchanges, stable coins. Crypto is very fast paced, so we'll be able to iterate quickly. And this is a very generalizable strategy. So it can be applied to other markets as well outside of crypto, but we feel that right now crypto is the right place to go. And that's it. Thanks.
So yeah, we can take a few questions now. You guys will get a chance to talk with Craig and Raphael. Any questions now from the room? Oops. Yeah. No problem. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Right. Any questions from the audience for us?
What do you envision the MVP to be? Prospects?
Oh, good question. And what's your name?
Oh, Sriram.
Sriram.
That's right, yeah.
Thank you for the question, Sriram. What do we envision the MVP to be? So, what we built is a system to analyze social data, and we've gotten some interesting results from that. What I would imagine as an MVP is streaming in social data from a variety of sources and being able to actually trade on probably a combination of DEXs and centralized exchanges as well. Greg, anything to that?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that trading algorithms across the spectrum can make use of this data. So whether we're doing market making, arbitrage, day trading, we could build this into any of those trading algorithms as an MVP. So, okay.
Wouldn't this be more relevant for market making than arbitrage in the time?
It would depend where we're hedging, yeah. So I was kind of thinking about that. So a big part of market making and hedging is going to be and yeah.
Last question. Would you consider showing your clustering, co-clustering to a bunch of students?
Show our what?
Your co-clustering,
Totally.
clustering, yeah, like clustering it to a whole bunch of students that'd be very interested.
Yes, we would be very excited to show our clustering to students. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway, so we have to. We're trying to get a tight schedule. I know that you guys will get a chance to chat with Greg and Raphael, but like let's thank them and we'll move on to the next meeting. All right, perfect.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Today we're excited to tell you about Kari, a financial operating system for hospitals. Our team has expertise across healthcare, AI, and data analytics. My name is Camilo. I'm finishing my PhD in the Stanford AI Lab. This is Skylar, who is a co-founder of Atari, a health company acquired by Peloton. He spent years building integrations into hospital IT. This is Vetri, he's formerly at Google. He's worked on revenue reconciliation and financial intelligence for enterprise. And finally, we have Amin, who's somewhere in the crowd. He works at Google Brain on large language models. The problem we focus on is that hospitals today are flying blind when it comes to financial operations. There's simple questions that they struggle to answer. For example, how much will a hospital be paid after it's performed a procedure? Second, when will a hospital be paid? And third, is the hospital actually being paid the right amount? This isn't just true for hospitals, it's also true for practices and healthcare systems more broadly. No other industry works this way. We think it's insane that healthcare does, especially when the annual hospital revenues in the US exceed $1.4 trillion a year. It's hard to answer these questions today because the flow of money in healthcare is complex. The fundamental interaction is between hospitals and insurers. After a hospital performs a service on a patient, they'll send a claim to the insurer, which is charging them for the procedure. The insurer will then review the claim and ultimately give payment back to the hospital. But this process is rife with pain points for the hospital today. First, insurers currently deny between 10 and 20% of the claims from hospitals, meaning that hospitals don't know how much they're going to be paid even after they've already performed the procedure. Second, insurers often delay payment by up to 90 days after actually receiving the claim, meaning hospitals don't know when they're going to be paid, which can cause major cash flow issues. And finally, insurers pay an amount based on adjustments through a range of secondary factors. This means that when hospitals actually get the money, it's difficult for them to know whether they got paid the right amount. In fact, there are anecdotes from CFOs of hospitals about being owed millions of dollars after the fact due to accounting errors.
Yeah, so we're super excited to introduce a financial operating system for health providers and hospitals more broadly. So we think about this as a three-pillar strategy. The first is AI medical billing. And so we think about this as understanding the service as in terms of what was provided in the EHR, translating that service into a billing code, the 835 and 837 CMS code. And then we imagine this as the interface between the provider, the clearinghouse, and the payer. That's actually going to be agentic AI that's going to streamline that solution. So we spent a while building this weekend, and Victor will talk more about what that solution looks like. But we see that as the first strategy that helps us get to the broader healthcare ledger. So we think about the healthcare ledger as revenue reconciliation. If we can understand what was the CPT code, what was the service performed, then we can understand on the other end, did we get paid appropriately, and help close the gap on missing and inaccurate payments. And the third piece of this strategy here is around financial intelligence. This is financial planning and analysis, and it's really a cash flow question. Is how do we help these organizations operate more efficiently and more like the trillion-dollar business that they are? So, are we yet another revenue cycle management company? Like you've seen a lot of these in healthcare, the space is really busy, and we're positioning ourselves as a thin layer that sits on top of RCM. We're not going to providers and saying you need to rip out your old solution and we're the new thing on the block. We're saying, hey, let's provide value today. Let's help you understand where are your codes inaccurate and where can we help you rectify that situation and bring in more revenue today? If we're able to do that, we see opportunity to get towards this revenue reconciliation and financial planning areas. And if you take a look at kind of the competition and the incumbents there, you see things like QuickBooks, you see Sage, you see general purpose ERP systems like SAP and Oracle, none of which are healthcare specific and purpose built for healthcare. In my background, I've seen a ton of this being a huge issue where it's about workflows, it's about the nuances of healthcare that are driven by regulatory and CMS requirements, and then it also leads towards value-based care. So that's kind of how we see ourselves in the market. And then the next question is, okay, that's how you position yourself, but how do you get there? What does the first sell look like? We know that selling into healthcare absolutely sucks. It's a 12 to 18 month sales cycle, and it's going to take forever, and it's going to be really challenging. Instead, we're taking a product-led growth approach and going straight to medical billers. The goal is to launch with something that medical billers can use, whether they're internal to the hospital, whether they're an external service, as a tool to help them better understand how does this note map to a billing code. So you can think about this as a web tool that Victor will talk more about in a second. And then from there, it's about how do we take our user base of hospital billers and take that to broader enterprise integrations that allow us to do the revenue reconciliation, then it's land and expand with financial analysis and planning.
Thanks, Kyler. So next week, we're going to launch a web-based billing tool that any biller can use. Right? So this will be launched on the web. Any biller in the US can go to this website, put in a clinical note that is de-identified and HIPAA compliant, and receive a set of billing codes that are relevant to the clinical note. The tool will also provide explanations of why these billing codes are relevant for this clinical note so that the biller can verify that. This should have a tremendous impact on the current workflow of billers who either look at thousands of pages of billing code manuals or do their own web searches. Hopefully they'll find value in this tool. So the last couple of days over the hackathon, right? We have been working on something, and let's get to it, right? Why should our billing agent work better than anybody else right now? So how do we know that it works? So in the US, to become a medical biller, you need to take a certification exam from the American Association of Professional Coders. And what we did for the hackathon was try to build a tool that will take some of these practice exams and do well, right? So here's a screenshot of our tool actually taking the practice exam. And we are happy to report that we have achieved human level performance so far. Next week, we are going to register for the official certification exam, and we are hoping that Kari will be the first certified AA medical biller. Now, to bring it all home, today, hospitals are fly blind to the nuances in their financial operations, right? Kari will help them see. Thank you, and we're open for questions.
Any questions? Yeah.
Inpatient claims? Are we discussing inpatient claims?
Sure.
Some inpatient claims will take 2 years to resolve. How do you do reconciliation given the time scale in which the resolution happens? Depending on what denial code you want to take.
If you guys could repeat the question for the
Sure. Yeah, so a broader question is, you've got a 2-year reconciliation window. How are you going to handle that? And I think that really speaks to the problem. Unless you know what the service was performed, unless you're deeply integrated with the EHR and not kind of this hacky integration that doesn't work there and doesn't persist, those codes change over time. I think you're actually speaking to the problem. And that's exactly what we want to solve, is be there that's hey, this is the source of truth, and we can see what happens on the other end of this. And I think it plays well into the long-term vision too, where it's what does agentic AI look like? That's actually facilitating that interaction that hopefully speeds up and shortens that window.
If there's no other questions, we move on to the next team. But yeah, let's thank the Kari team.
Everyone, our team's called Soundee, and as you can tell by our amazing logo, we're the best product, clearly. But yeah, the problem that we're trying to solve with Soundee is that human voice is very inflexible. It's quite hard to create a lot of audio recordings, especially things like audiobooks or recording voiceovers. Fundamentally, it takes a long time to make these recordings. I have to go find a voice actor. I have to ask them, I have to convey what I want them to say. And I lose a lot of creative control. When they give me the voice recording, I have to listen to the entire thing, get feedback, do this whole feedback loop. It ends up being very expensive. Voice actors typically cost between $200 and $600 an hour. So our solution is why not generate these voices? Clearly, this is pretty trendy right now, so that's of course what we're going to do. What that means is, we have immediate creation. We can immediately generate the voice, and we have creative control because you can immediately get feedback and immediately deliver that onto the new voice. And let's be real, it's really cheap. Just runs some computers. It's not $200 to $500 an hour anymore. So our solution is the Soundee Generative Audio Suite. And as you can tell by the amazing logo, it's also the best web app out there. But we really have a true secret, which is that we're focusing on the spoken word. Instead of a lot of speech synthesis engines today, where they start with text and try to generate speech out of that, we actually start with the ability to edit speech, which means that we capture a lot of the subtle details in intonation, in the tone of voice, the rate of speech that people speak at. We're able to transform speech to speech itself, which allows us to make a lot of these edits that people ask for from voice actors. And this brings us to our roadmap and our go-to-market strategy. As you can imagine, if you're looking for a voice actor, probably the first place you go is Fiverr. So we want to meet our customers where they are today and just go to Fiverr. We're going to go there and start fulfilling orders immediately. We can do this today. We don't develop a platform. We don't have to, we're going to ship our web app, but we don't do that tomorrow. We can immediately go to Fiverr and start delivering orders, which gives us really good data on what kinds of voice acting are people looking for, what kind of edits are they making, and why are they doing it? What kind of use cases they have. Obviously, as many engineers and people in tech, we don't have the best insight into this data, but by immediately going and getting money for it and driving revenue for that service tomorrow, we can actually start learning that immediately. Our next step is to take all these learnings and draw customers into a creation suite. Once we've built out these tools, we start building a corpus of tools where we can make these edits and they're fully automated. So why not just start shipping this as a software as a service platform? And lastly, as we continue to grow and get customers into our software as a service platform, we're looking at getting larger contracts from the larger production studios like Netflix, like Audible, and make it so we have a very strong moat through our distribution channels and strong contracts in themselves. Now, the market for this is huge. As we've talked about the roadmap going from small to large, the large side ends up being very, very large. In 2022 alone, there were over 1 billion minutes of audio recorded, and each of these individual segments, podcasting, audiobooks, and language dubbing, all have markets in themselves. But fundamentally, these are all just speech-to-speech transformations. At the end of the day, it's all AI, right? So it's really easy for us to produce audio and be able to generate that from scratch. Now, obviously, we're not without competitors, but like I said earlier, our primary advantage is that we found a way to do speech-to-speech transformation. A lot of competitors that we see today are focused around text. They add semantic markers in the text itself to try to make it easier to convey these tones and emotions. But the reality is, if you tell an actor, a voice actor, that you want the voice to sound like this, you're just going to demonstrate it to them. That's a speech-to-speech transformation. That's not a text-to-speech transformation. So why not meet the customers where they are and how they behave today, instead of starting from scratch and dictating how they do that? The other side of our competitive landscape is the asset-first generation. Companies like Runway and Descript, they work on a much more holistic view, right? They work on a whole multimedia creation suite. They focus on video and editing video, but we're focused on the core product of editing voice and audio first. We believe that as we grow, we will expand to a broader creation suite that capture a lot of multimedia generation. But our first step is to really focus on this core problem of voice in itself. So I've been talking a lot about our product, but our team is the three of us. We have Chloe. Chloe's a grant-winning podcaster and studies at Stanford right now. My name is Kevin. I'm a media AI expert. I've been working in this space for 3 years, really deep into AI and media. And we have Kelly. Kelly's led engineering teams for the last 20 years and worked on a lot of interactive entertainment production systems in the past as well. as you can tell, we're all really focused on building, and we have the best logo. Thank you, and we'll take questions. Oh, sorry?
Do you have a voice?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have a quick demo as well. Next one.
So you're about to see a demo of what we worked on this weekend.
To bring it up real quick, so it's not a sample voice. This exact bit is cleaning up audio. So the idea is a podcaster goes and does an interview. That was a difficult interview to do, going back to a problem. The person answering the questions is not a professional speaker. And so if you imagine going to like a professional audio tools, Pro Tools, or something like that, you can do a lot of editing. You can do, hey, I want to clip these out, I want to do that, whatever. That requires you knowing a little bit of signal analysis and how to run Pro Tools. If instead you level up and say, hey, can I remove the ums and ahs button, and do that. So that's what you're saying. And we're gonna
Make sure we got audio on this. Okay. Yeah, make sure we got audio here. It should be able to play through the TV.
What was your reaction when you found the body?
Yeah, so when I found the body, I didn't realize he was dead.
What was your reaction when you found the body?
So when I found the body, I didn't realize he was dead. So when I found the body, I didn't realize he was dead. Yeah, so when I found the body, I didn't realize he was dead.
Yeah.
So how'd you do that? Did you get a language model that just find the clip points?
Yeah, so this is a little where it gets like more technical, but we actually use reinforcement learning. We use an actor and critic model, and the actor is a large language model that generates the speech tokens, which synthesize into the actual audio itself. The critic model evaluates the highest quality and picks the highest quality model, and that kind of goes into a feedback loop where that's how it trains the model in itself. After a while, the actor model ends up being quite good at eliminating things that we don't want in speech. In particular, there's a token that says, what do you actually want to do to the text? We'll basically put that into the speech, and the actor model becomes quite good at that.
The thing we were chasing sort of part of it was also doing things like, hey, classifying this voice is excited, this voice is angry, this voice is sleepy, and be able to change sentiment. Does it work?
Yeah, I think
directionally.
Yeah, directionally. So we can hack them. We can do some small changes here and there. Obviously, in the broader scale of things, we believe that this will work for any sort of transformation, as long as we're transforming the model with more training, more data. And one of the biggest challenges we run into is just sample data collection. How can we actually get tagged audio? But as we have more data down the road, we believe that this model and this approach will actually work for any sort of small transformation, the same way you might ask the voice actor.
I would take the very being so the two honest engineer. It directionally works where you commit yourself. The big note was the amount of data that we could get. Public data, fine, that was the problem, and train it in the time frame.
Yeah, time frame is tough.
We were literally like 24 plus hours of training the initial model, and doing that was our bug cycle.
OpenAI needed 20,000 human hours to get instruction GPT-7.
Yeah, finding the data, we found the finding the data was surprisingly easy. We thought that was going to be a problem. So,
Why not launch on Fiverr today?
Because it's not quite done, we do a little more than 48 hours. Let's talk in a week.
Yeah.
Gosh, sorry. Let me check it.
I can repeat the question.
The question was there any time series decomposition on the audio? I assume you mean on the audio, right? On the audio itself, we don't do any time series decomposition. We do typical positional encoding, just like you might in GPT-2 and GPT-3. But we don't do any kind of, traditional audio signal processing on the audio itself. We actually find that the way we are approaching modeling the audio is sufficient to improve the quality and get to where we need to. In practice, we do believe that maybe if we did more semantic analysis, it would be better and reduce the amount of time it would take to train. But in the short term, we only have 48 hours of hacking, right?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely do that.
Okay, yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
well,
sure.
no,
Good.
no,
Good.
Yes, my son.
Okay. Ready. Yeah. Anyway, so it was not only organized but also was able to join a team. My family joined the team. And so we are Watashi. The problem we're trying to solve is how to reduce the cost and overhead of all the mundane communication you have to do in your day job. And sometimes people solve this problem with like EAs or VAs, like executive assistants or virtual assistants. You know, and the truth is, but that is still too limited because, you know, when I think about my experience here at Inception Studio, I'm interacting closely with around 40 or so, you know, sponsors and investors and others. They don't want to interact with a VA and with an EA or a VA. What I actually want, because I can delegate tasks to them, but you know, I don't actually trust them with you know, these type of interactions because they're very important, right? And so what I actually want is a virtual version of me. Just like a virtual copy of me, one who has all the context, who knows exactly what tone to use with different people, you know, understands, like, able to do these things cross-channel. That's what I actually want. I don't want to be able to delegate this to some virtual EA to do this. I want something that's going to enable me to be able to do this, right? And like I mentioned, I'm talking with, you know, 40 or so, right? The limit that I can reach out to many more. You know, it's very easy to put together a form letter, you know, form emails, send those out. The real problem is that I don't, like, the problem is to even try to respond because I don't even have the capacity to be able to interact with them in the way that, you know, they deserve to be interacted with because they're all very important people, right? And so just imagine if instead of being able to do this 40, I was able to do this with 100 or 1,000 people, right? That is the vision. That is what we're actually trying to build, right? And so the first version of this, the first version of what we're, you know, and so this is what the vision is, right? We're trying to build a virtual you, right? And this is augmenting all of your professional interactions, right? And that goes across different channels, right? Not just on your email, not just on your Slack or your Teams, just across all of your channels. Because the only way to do this effectively is to have the context, you know, across all of these channels. So our first version of this. Oh, by the way, so we have an awesome team. And if you guys don't know, so I a couple of enterprise companies that each got acquired. I've been working. Both of the enterprise companies I'm working at have been right at that intersection of user experience, usability, and enterprise, right? And so I've been working in this area for nearly 20 years now. Mike, you want to?
Yeah, I've been building and running engineering teams in Silicon Valley, all in startups since the year 2000. It's been a while. Yeah, pretty much all in enterprise, kind of at the intersection of enterprise and either consumer or employee in that context.
And I'm Richard. I was until a couple weeks ago the VP of product at Twitter. I've built and sold the company, and I've spent many years in like Silicon Valley at Google and other places as well.
Yeah. So we can actually show you a demo, but let me first describe what our first product is. So we built a browser extension that can read and record all of your interactions and communications with other people, and then provide suggested responses to it. So it's in essence a super smart auto responder, like an auto reply, you know, generations engine, and it understands the history and the context of of the conversation you're talking about, and you know, as you go across different sites and interact with different people, right? And this is all powered by these large language models that are fine-tuned for you. They're specifically fine-tuned for the way that you speak, the type of language that you use, the terms that you use, and they understand that contextual and historical information that is so important when you're doing these type of interactions, right? It connects with Slacks, it connects with Teams, with email, with Calendar, to provide this type of comprehensive view and understanding of the context of your conversations, and then it suggests, you know, contextually aware responses. So let's take a look at an example. So this is an example. So this is an example within Slack. You'll see that. So I'm Peter, and I work at Anatech, and you know, I'm here chatting with Samir, right? And what happens is I'm in the middle of a meeting, and I'm sure we've all been in this situation. Been in the middle of a meeting, and this meeting is running way over. And normally, what I have to do is I have to go and send a message to the people who are, you know, coming out, like, you know, in my upcoming meeting that I'm now going to miss, and say, hey, sorry, we're running late. Let's, you know, can we reschedule, you know, just for this other internal meeting? But of course, that takes a lot of brain power and energy, and you know, I don't want to have to context switch, because if I context switch, I'm not paying attention to my original meeting, right? And so this happens all the time. So let's take a look. You'll notice there's a little wand icon here. This is what we actually, because we implemented the extension, we don't need any permissions from the Slack administrator or anything like that. A user can individually install this and then instantly get that wand there. So let's see what happens. So the first thing I'm gonna message my boss, Bill Rumberg, and then Bill Lumberg, and I just want to write a message about that we're running late, right? And then I push the wand icon, and then there's a couple of options that pop up, because it doesn't have the full context about what I want to do, but to say, do I want to postpone the meeting? It knows that I'm in a meeting, and it knows I'm running late, right? And it knows that I have that Bill Lumberg is my next meeting, right? In my next meeting. Do I want to postpone the meeting, or do I want to cancel the meeting, right? Or I can exit out, or I can type my own response, right? So in this case, I just want to click say, hey, Bill, unfortunately the meeting, I'm running late. I'm sorry, I'm going to reschedule it, and it's available on calendar. The tone of this it matches the tone of my previous conversations with Bill, right? And so that's so I can just quickly read this over. I can make edits if I want to, and then click to submit. And Samir is also in that meeting, and of course, Samir is my peer, and so I want to send him a message as well, right? And so again, it matches the style. It knows who we're talking to, and it matches the style and say, hey, right? So that's an example. This is just a very basic example. This is not, you know, obviously, you know, scheduling is one piece, and this is really the power of of being able to understand the context and be able to pull the data from different sources and then combine it with these large language models to be able to make these type of determinations, right? Let's go to the next one. So here's another example. So the context here is that I'm here chatting with Samir, and then I see Bill's writing me a message, right? I get a message from Bill, who's my boss. Click on that, and he said, hey, what's happening? I was wondering if you can give us a status update on the TPS report project. We need to get a report out by the client by the end of the week. And so I'm typing out my response saying, yeah, okay, about that, you know, we hit a bit of a snag. Let me get back to you, right? Because I know that Samir is working on that project. And I'm sure everybody's been in this situation. Many times, like when you're working in a corporate environment, what you're actually doing is you're just taking information from one place and you're massaging it in various ways, and you're just sending it to someone else. That's a large part of your job. It's very mundane, but you have to do it. I can't copy and paste from one thing to the other, because I have to understand the context, right? So, hey, and so you know, we send the message to Samir. Samir says, hey, I told you to take more days. I'm still on it. So just one more. I skipped over this a little bit quickly. So what actually happens is I already understand the context. This is I know that. So immediately before this, Peter was asking me a question, and then I went immediately to Samir, and I said, you know, the only thing I typed here in the box was a single question mark, and I say autocomplete from a single question mark. So it knows I want to ask Samir a question. And okay, well, what you know, of all the questions in the world, like what is a question I'm going to ask? Well, I understand the context that I was just chatting with Bill, who is asking me about this project. And you know that Samir is already working on the TPS reports. And so you combine these into the prompt in the large language model. And then you have some, first of all, ready for lunch. So you want to go to Chotki's. That's one of the options that we talked about that before, right? We know that we're going to lunch. TPS status report update. I can click that, and then it pre-composes a message for me, right? Based on my historical my historical chats with Samir, right? And so Samir writes me a nice response, right? And then so okay, it's going to take a few more days, right? But obviously, I can't copy and paste this and send that directly to Bill. And so what I do is I say status update. And then in this case, it already has enough status. And you have to pop up options. It says, oh, I already know what you're talking about. Status update. Well, okay, it's but it might take a few days. And then I click to send that. Right, and then Bill types out his reply, which is going to come up soon. Yeah, I'm going to have to go ahead and need to prioritize that, right? That would be great, yeah. And again, and then what I type is I just type okay, and then it turns it into right. So again, these are the power of these large language models. They're exceptionally good at this type of style transfer, and we're actually able to learn from the styles of each individual. And the thing that really makes this possible is the fact that we're able to grab the context and understand the context there, because we live within that browser. We always have a big long-term goal here. The way that we plan to approach this is we're building this productivity tool, and we're doing it intentionally as starting with a browser extension, because this does not require any special plugin like permissions from any type of IT or anything like that. An individual can go and download and use this. And we've all run into all of these challenges. Maybe it's around scheduling, maybe it's around different areas of communication, these burning needs. And if we can then hook some users and get them onto using this tool for free. And at the beginning, they're really paying us in their data, because the goal, we have a long-term goal here of building the best virtual, be able to get to the point where we can build a virtual version of you, where the suggestion replies are accurate enough that, like, in many cases I can just click it and click send, right? The plan there is like just to get users onboarded quickly and free with a free trial, with all the full integrations, and then move to a freemium model where, like, once you've imported their data, we can they start to see dive it, we can rate limit their responses, and then add additional functionalities there. And the goal here is really more of a bottoms-up growth strategy, where we get individual users to use it, which then goes up to groups and teams, which then goes up to to large enterprise contracts. Because ultimately, I think that's the direction that these type of tools will go.
In the spirit of office space, computer ideas go awry. What happens, have you thought about what happens when you start really using it a lot and you get recursive style lock-in, where it's actually just becoming its own sort of mealy mouthed style?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think the other interesting question is, like, what if Bill on the other side is using one of these agents as well? We're just chatting back and forth, right? No, these are. I mean, this is.
I thought you were going to say we know which ones were computer written, so we'll just make that in training.
We do. No, so this is a very important point. I think the most the companies that will win in this space are the ones that have the best feedback loop. We strongly believe that, like, the answer to this is not I go into some other tool and I type in something in my ChatGPT prompts and I try to share in this context. It needs to be in the context of the apps that you're already using and be able to see that directly. And because we're sitting in those apps, we can actually see all the edits that you make. And so when you suggest something, say, no, that wasn't quite right. I need to go and edit this. That just becomes a feedback for reinforcement learning, to improve the model. So that is a very important point of this, which is like the main reason we're doing this is that is to be able to get more and more data around the Swans, not only for you, but just for people in general, and build more and more powerful models to be able to handle more and more situations. And I think there's a number of like fairly straightforward situations, more ones that are things around scheduling, things around like other types of basic communication, summarization, and kind of rewriting text, these type of things, which if we're living within the context of the tools that people use, like Teams and Slack and email, then we can see all of those interactions, and that becomes a very powerful and a huge data load for us. Yeah.
How about impersonation? Like, aren't you afraid that this could be leveraged?
Yeah, no, I mean, oh, so the question was about impersonation, right? And it's like, I've built a bot that is intended to respond the way that I do, right? In the same type of tone, and do it in a contextually aware way, right? So that it knows that, that I talk to different people in different ways, and I talk about different things, right? This is why I think you have to keep the control of all of this with the user, right? This is why I think it's like having the human in the loop becomes extremely important. Like maybe in some distant future, if you take this and you do the straight line, like where does this lead, right? Where if you can actually build something that can respond the same way I do and gets it 80%, 90%, 95, 99%, right? That becomes pretty. There's an interesting path there, but I think by keeping the human in the loop and making this more of a not an autoresponder, not a agent that's working on behalf of me, but actually a hyper productivity tool, so I can type in okay and then and express that sentiment. Again, this is all made possible now by this power of these large language models, and the fact that you can ingest a lot of these type of contexts and then generate very reasonable responses there, using this, right? But I think keeping the human in the loop. So I am and it's not sending for me. I am the person who sees it and says like, yes, I want to send this. I think this is a very important point. That like we're gonna have to maintain for a while. In eventual future, you'll maybe there's a future where this happens, right? All the way down. Yeah. Anything you guys wanted to add on that point?
No, but like the idea is like you're the human in the loop. It's not like a bunch of people supporting you that are the human in the loop. You are the one in control. So keeping that control is important, especially as in a corporate environment, depending on the culture, depending on what's happening across, you want to make sure that you're always, the tone of voice is accurate.
We're just at time. I just want to mention one last thing, which was even the term of Watashi. I mean, in Japanese, what it means is I, or like make more personal, right? But it actually has a deeper meaning behind this as well, because like Watashi is that's the word that you typically use like in a business context, and in a case where you want to show respect, you want to show that you respect. It's a little bit slightly more formal. This is the type of thing that you do kind of in business conversation, and that's really the point. And the point is not is that it's like I want to make a clone of me, but like in some ways a better version of me, one that actually has the time to be able to devote to each individual that I'm corresponding with full attention, and not with a fractional 1/40th or 1/50th of the attention they normally have, plus all the context switching overhead that they have there as well. So I think that's the reason that we did call it Watashi, which is in Japanese is around I and personal, and it has those additional connotations there as well. So anyway, that's the presentation. Yeah. Did we have one more like a bonus presentation? Yeah. Were you able to?
Yes.
Put here. Perfect. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, cool. My presentation will be a little bit shorter, and then you guys can also shorten. To set the scene a little bit for Trellis, Our education system is completely broken. You've experienced it yourself, and guess what? Your children are going to experience it too. The terrors of uncustomized education. Slower students get left behind, sometimes never catching up or dropping back a grade. Bright students don't get the stimulation they need, and sometimes get misdiagnosed with things like ADHD. We spend hundreds of billions of dollars on education, only to get poor outcomes and years of lost potential. Students want to learn more quickly and more deeply, and schools want to meet performance criteria. The same problems of learning customization extends from K to 12 to high school, to university, to corporations. Enter scene, Trellis. Teach yourself anything, increase your understanding by 2 standard deviations. And it's live at readtrellis.com. So, oh no.
What's the access? Let me just try it.
Okay.
We may have to. You have to.
1 second. Give me 1 second.
You gotta make it world readable.
Okay.
You wanna show the video.
I've not received an email yet.
So click.
I think you have a click request on
Yeah,
it.
click the request.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No worries. Awesome. 1 sec. Okay. Sorry, I should have tested this prior. Okay, perfect. Okay, now you'll get to hear me speaking at 1.5x speed. On a very simple text. But I'll explain.
So I'm learning linear algebra and trying to learn a concept known as linear independence. So I don't understand this paragraph, so let's highlight it. I just selected it. And let's say I want to take 3rd grade interpretation. And it tells me linear algebra is like you have a bunch of sticks. Dependence is like you have a bunch of sticks and you want to pick them up one at a time without moving any of the other sticks. Some of the sticks are going in the same direction, then it's impossible to pick them up one at a time. So this is generated by GPT-3. And we actually plan on caching this whenever the user reads a paragraph for the first time. It'll be stored in our DB. And this reduces API costs. And it allows us also to do human verification. Like we'll later on have feedback tabs for, is this a good generation or not? So let's say, okay, I learned a bit from that 3rd grade translation. I want to get a bit closer. Now I see that this is a more complex definition. A set of vectors is linearly independent. If no vector, the set can be created by combining the other vectors. Great, and we can also see the college, and we can toggle back at any point to the original. How this would change from our MVP that we ship is on the side, we would have an AI tutor that you could ask any questions about on the text. So instead of translating text where you could ask it questions, it'd be interactive, it could be Socratic and also ask you questions back. Thanks.
Cool. So for people who,
Great, so I'm learning linear algebra.
Sorry.
Yeah.
For people who didn't see what was happening, basically, and you can also see this live, you can highlight a paragraph. There's several different variants of text. We plan on, like you click 3rd grade level, 6th grade, 9th grade, etc. You can also imagine a world where we actually have the prompts be AI generated. So let's say you're looking at a Python code block, ask GPT-3, do some prompt chaining. Hey, what's the most useful thing to help someone who says, I don't understand as a button, just a big I don't understand button. Maybe you'll generate Python 3, they'll say, explain this code in English, Java, and JavaScript. So in this way, we get this like beautiful trellis that is overlaid on top of the structure of a book. So, most importantly, how do we make money? This is a really cool social good idea. It'll obviously like change people's lives. You should fund me, but how will we make money? Go-to-market is the main thing that I'm de-risking right now as CEO. And from user interviews, we've heard a willingness to pay of students from $15 a month per the textbook tutor, which will be interactive, and a flat fee per textbook. So just like when you buy an ebook online, you can buy a Trellis version of that textbook that has not only like different translations customized to you that are interactive, but all the data, just like Kindle highlights from other students like you who have read the book before and who have verified, oh, this helped me, this was a useful translation for me. And all open source textbooks will be free. So on our release on Product Hunt this week, we'll upload basically all the open source books that exist on the internet, and you'll be able to interact with them infinitely with Trellis. We'll cache it for you. We already have one letter of intent from a corporate education company. And we're also looking for LOIs from textbook publishers. So you might look at this and be like, Jasmine, this is way too many channels. What are you doing? Especially with a limited team. My thesis here is actually we want to build this out in a pretty similar way, regardless of if we're looking for LOIs or not, and we might change our strategy, different product strategy, if and only if we receive an LOI. We will not build towards those LOIs. We'll build a magical single user experience. We already have that. We already have user love from people who use it. They stay on it for like hours at a time, even on like deep learning. Like my CTO was like, he's at Meta AI, and he's like, I finally understand deep learning from this textbook. And we'll switch to building a multiplayer experience if and only if we receive LOIs from textbook publishers. We also think that there's possibly a wider market here of direct to consumer. One of our risers on our team, which I'll talk about later, is Paul Jasinski. He was VP of Growth at Airbnb and was also VP of Growth at Blinkist. And he was my first boss in tech. Oh, no, I did the wrong thing. Okay, cool. So I'm Jasmine. Hi, everyone. I'm the XCO of Copysmith, which I bootstrapped at exit. It was one of the first GPT-3 powered companies. We built it in mid-2020, sold it in early 2021. It's very similar to Jasper. I learned a lot about how to intuitively work with GPT-3. I also learned that I really did not want to work in marketing tech and wanted to find something that was like a noble enough goal, but also made money. I don't want to run a nonprofit. A noble enough mission that I could devote myself to it for the rest of my life. And I sincerely believe that that is Trellis. I'm also a Teal Fellow. I worked as a researcher at OpenAI on GPT-2. I've also worked at MILA, the Montreal Institute of Learning Algorithms. That's the largest academic deep learning lab in the world. Also worked at Microsoft Research on HCI, and let me tell you, there are a lot of interesting HCI problems here. I think we're actually reinventing how you can interact with the book. When I was younger, I actually taught kids for 4 years, and I deeply, deeply experienced the pain of trying to explain in 10 different ways a linear algebra concept, which I myself did not understand very deeply. I would have killed for a tool like this. I also thought it was important to say, I love books. I really think that a company tackling this problem really needs to honor and respect the book as a medium. The last thing I would want to do is destroy the integrity of the book data format that has served us faithfully for many thousands of years, or no, 500 BC. Not a lot of time, actually. I was the editor-in-chief of Kernel magazine, a magazine by for technologists about political technology, but you can check it online too. My CTO is awesome. His name is Alex. He's an engineering manager at Meta AI on the responsible AI team. He manages 10 people, and he's very quickly promoted to that position. He's a former EdTech founder. And also, a lovely friend and AI advisor in the audience, Amin Kafuri, who is a tech lead and AI researcher at Google Brain. Oh, as I mentioned before, I'm also working with Paul Jasinski, who will be helping a lot with go-to-market. Blinkist is a pretty similar market as what we would want to tackle in the direct-to-consumer case. Awesome. So what are we asking for? We're asking for a $4 million safe on a $20 million post. With this money, we'll execute on the go-to-market, we'll build a product, our edge team sales if needed. Intuitively speaking, I'm hoping that we can build this as a pretty lean, mean, product-led growth machine. I'm a poet too. We'll raise a Series A once we hit $1 million ARR, or the 3x equivalent in LOIs. I'm at jasmine@retrellis.com, and I welcome questions, and now we're afterwards. Thank you.
Any questions for Jasmine or online?
Jasmine, what is the market size you're first going after?
Oh yeah, let me just quickly go back. That's a great question. So for our Zoom audience, the question was, how big is the market, or initial market? So we're initially, we have a much broader vision than replacing tutors. We want to basically make humans in the loop optional for teaching, as scary as that sounds, and improve the experience of the science. But the global private tutor market is much bigger than I previously thought. It's $95 billion, which I think is quite sizable for a seat. And there's lots of people probably in this room who are willing to pay for private tutors for their children, who might rely on Trellis instead as either an augment tailored to that experience, or as a replacement for their tutor themselves if they cannot afford to hire tutors.
Cool. Let's thank Jasmine. Yeah, anyway, so that was all the demos that we had for today. It's been an awesome, intense experience over the last how many days is it now? And then this is the thing, like we call Inception, like you see we gave everyone one of these, like the little totems from the movie, because definitely it feels like there's this time dilation aspect that happens where like it feels like things like we're able to get 10 times as much done just because we're all in here together. Anyway, after this, we have food, we have drinks and everything. I was wondering, I mean, if any of the cohort group, if any of you guys like wanted to reflect on your experience here and say anything.
Not to put anything on the spot.
Raphael, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I'm Raphael. My first time being in an Inception cohort, I had a great time. I had some really good games of chess, met some really good people, hacked on something that I was really excited about. And in particular, I love just it pushed me to try some really new tools in data analytics and visualizations that I've never tried before. So I felt like I got a lot out of it. And I very much want to thank you two, John and Mike, for hosting us. So thank you very much.
I think the real person who made the entire event happen was Connie.
Yes.
She did.
She like killing herself accidentally.
No. Like she really handled all the logistics, and there was a huge amount that kind of went into putting together an event like this. And again, like we're just all doing it volunteers because we love to do it. We love to spend time with founders and just really help to enable them as well. And then we have some exciting stuff coming up with Inception Studio as well. We're working on some collaborations with some schools, around pairing off AI researchers with experienced startup operators who want to start companies. And we're very bullish on that as well. Again, like I mentioned, we're planning 5 more events this year. So definitely, and so yeah, if you're interested in this, definitely come and talk to me or talk to one of the other organizers. We are looking for more sponsors and stuff. We have a long pipeline of great people, along the lines of the people that you saw here today, and that's really our limitation at this point, is that just having the capital and resources to be able to run these events. And the events don't cost a huge amount of money, but we want to maintain it so that we don't have to be like we charge the founders to come in, right? This is like I think it's much better to be in a situation where it's like, hey, we can invite people, and there's not that kind of barrier. As you see, in kind of a diversity of people. I mean, some people are last year in their PhD, right? Other people with 30 years of experience, right? And they kind of and everything in between. We want to still and continue to focus on the absolute highest quality, founders from wherever they are, and be able to enable them to come, no matter what their backgrounds are, and to want to continue to enable that. So we are looking for more sponsors and more partner investors. Some of these we had three companies going on board that came out of the first event. I predict there's going to be at least one. Yeah, at least one. I know for a fact there's going to be at least one that's starting out of this, right? And I think this is just like a really exciting, different way of starting companies. That's really what our goal here is. So anyway, get some drinks, meet some interesting people. We have this place until tomorrow morning. So if you get a chance, there's awesome grounds as well. There's actually a zoo on site. I'm not kidding. With exotic animals and like an albino peacock and llamas and swans and black swans. Yeah. You guys didn't tell the story behind the black swan. The black swans. Ask Greg about the story about the black swans because
And can
yeah, there's a true story about it. Yeah, there's a the actual owners of the land they do live in the main house here, so don't go and knock on the door of the main house, but otherwise, enjoy yourself. Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks everyone. Thanks everyone.